Good evening, everyone. Come on in the room. Come on in the room. I am super excited to be here with you all today for another edition of the BGC Book Club. And this one is extra special because if any of you have been following for a while, you know this is going to be our first ever Black King in the room. So it is indeed an honor for me to be here and to be able to present our guests. So as you come in the room, as always, let us know where you're joining us from. If this is your first time, if you're here specifically because you want to hear Harold Green, let us know that as well. It's just indeed an honor to be here. I am Marcy Thomas, founder of Brown Girl Collective, host of BGC Book Club. And we're actually coming up on our second year anniversary here next month. So I'm super excited about all of the wonderful people that we've had a chance to talk to over time. And tonight is no different. So let's just see here. All right, welcome to the space. I appreciate you all for being here. So without any further delay, I want to go ahead and introduce our guests for the evening. We have with us Harold Green III, who is an ever-evolving and internationally admired artist. Using poetry as his central art form, he is a highly sought-after talent, band leader, and event producer. He earned the prestigious Carl Sandburg Literary Award for his self-published debut poetry collection, From Englewood with Love. Green was a featured artist at the Chicago Mayoral Inauguration and the Illinois Holocaust Museum and has appeared on TEDx and at Aspen Ideas Festival. He has created commissioned work in partnership with major brands and organizations, including Nike, Lululemon, Jordan, Google, Chicago Public Schools, and Chicago Transit Authority. And as I've mentioned Chicago twice, you all can probably guess he is from Chicago. So without any further delay, welcome to the space, Harold Green III, to talk about his new book, Black Roses. Welcome, Harold.
It's so good to be here.
It's so good to have you here. And as I mentioned, Black King, welcome to the space. But you have
Yes.
indeed, with this wonderful, beautiful work, Black Roses, which actually we're getting a chance to talk about it early because it doesn't come out until tomorrow.
Yeah. So Black
Right.
Rose Eve. I'm here with you, Marcy, on Black Rose
Yes,
Eve.
yes. So yeah, we are definitely honored to have you here in advance of this wonderful book coming out. So as I mentioned in your intro, you have been doing a lot of great work just with your art and your poetry and music and so many different things. Just tell us a little bit about when you got into poetry and what led you toward a creative space.
I I've been doing poetry for 19 years now. So I originally, when I was younger, I was writing raps and all that type of stuff. And my dad, he used to write my sister and I poems when I was younger, and he would like call us prince and princess in the poems, and it was beautiful. But I didn't know the impact it would have on me until later on in life. And when I was a senior in high school, I became a big fan of HBO Def Poetry Jam.
Mhm.
And before that, poetry was just really presented to me in the form of like, units and chapter studies and literature and whatnot, and the stuffy old, you know, dead white poets, and it wasn't
Right.
really appealing. It was like I got it, but I wasn't, necessarily motivated to, dig deep or dive into that genre. It wasn't until senior year when I started watching HBO Def Poetry Jam, and I began to see people who look and sound just like me, come from places like me, and dealt with things like I had, and they spoke a rhythm of hip hop, and it was like,
Mhm.
oh, I get it. It's more vast than what I had been learning, So I was excited about that, and I began to write my own poetry, and I used my gift as a gift, and I was gifting my family, on Christmas with their own poems, and my girlfriend at the time, and everybody seemed to be moved by these writings. And my sister told me like, Harold, you got to keep going, and you need to, you should be performing and doing all this stuff. So she really pushed me into the performance world of it. And, from there, I just kept going. The Chicago open mic scene, which was, a hard place to earn your stripes. And I was performing with a spoken word troupe at the church that we was at the time. And then went on to my HBCU, Grambling State University, and began performing all over
Right.
campus. And from there, I began my professional career.
All right, well, that sounds good. And as you were talking, I was reminding our first two guests were people that you may be familiar with. Jessica Care Moore was one of the first
Nice,
guests
yeah,
for the BGC Book Club,
absolutely.
and we also had someone from your hometown, Leslie Honore.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know both of
Yes,
those ladies.
yes. I
Yeah,
had almost
absolutely.
forgotten about that. Yep. So we
Yeah,
definitely love,
absolutely.
love the poetry and spoken word. And there is a bit of a difference between, the way that you read it and then being able to speak it. Because it does have more of a cadence and, like you said, sounding more like rap or hip hop.
Absolutely. And there's a absolute space for that.
Mm.
I hate when that gets downplayed and lowbrowed, like it is a very intellectual thing that's happening there, and it is a very universal thing that's happening. It's a language of the heart, and that should never be dismissed as, uncultured or something that isn't academic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if you think about all of our favorite raps, and nothing but they start out as poems. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
absolutely. So now, in this specific book that we're talking about, Black Roses, it really is a celebration of Black women. And I love that.
Yeah.
Throughout the book, it's 40 different women that you talk about, ranging from people that we know, international figures, and some are local to Chicago, which I think is wonderful because that's a way of paying homage to those women that are great in your city and in your community, and even into your own home, your own family. Your mom, your sister, your wife. They're in this book as well, which I think is really beautiful. So you talk a little bit about it at the beginning of the book, how you kind of came to writing about women or the women in your life. Tell us a little bit about that background.
Yeah, so I grew up with my family, my mother, my father, and my sister. We lived in a two flat with my grandmother living above us on the second floor. And my grandmother, man, she had 12 kids,
Wow.
11 girls, one boy. So I had a plethora of great examples. And then on my father's side, I had two aunts. So altogether I had about 13 aunties, and then all these cousins. And it was just a really beautiful experience to see these women working in this space of love, strength, and grace. No matter what their situations were, they knew how to carry all three of those virtues out. And my grandmother was a huge part of my development. She was my second mother. She would pick us up from school, take us to school, with my parents working all these jobs and long hours and stuff like that. So we spent a lot of time with her. And I just saw so many wonderful examples of what love meant, growing up in different ways that it was displayed. So for me, loving Black women was not foreign. And I mean that in all forms, because I had all these different personalities of Black women around me. I had the loud ones, the fun ones, the stern ones, all those kinds that, we like to sometimes dismiss if they don't, like Kamala Harris or something in a power suit and a corporate job. Every form of Black woman I saw, and I knew that they knew how to express love, and I knew how to express love back to them. And I just find it important as an artist to use my platform to spread good and spread positivity. And as a poet specifically, I think it's my job to create language and sentiment to feeling. So we, don't have that exact syntax that we need in this country and abroad to speak about Black women. We still haven't quite figured it out. And this is my attempt to create more syntax around the sentiment of Black women. I speak about emotional equity in the introduction, and I think it's so important over all these centuries how
I have a little bit of a pause on my end. I'll make sure everything's okay.
yeah, okay. I'm I'm
Yeah, there's a little bit of a pause.
okay. I think we back now.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Um okay. No, I was
That's
just saying, I
technology.
spoke about this. Man, that's the hey man, that's I'm just, glad that we in this space. The fact that we even had the technology to do this is amazing. So, all the glitches and stuff, and we here, we good. But I was just saying, I spoke in the introduction about emotional equity. And I just think I feel real strongly about that because for centuries, I feel like Black women have had to deal with being ridiculed or ostracized for things that people then went and took and made popular or made a commodity, and how
Right.
much does that hurt to be told that you're this, you're that, or you're not good enough, but then to see it displayed and capitalized off of. And I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
terrible feeling to have to deal with for centuries. And it's, what I'm trying to do is show that not only physically, because if you notice in these poems in this book, not once am I talking about, the physical beauty
Right.
of these women. I'm talking about the character that they built on. You know what I'm saying? And that's something
Mm-hmm.
that lasts for eons beyond whenever they're gone and all that stuff. It's their legacy and what they have given to this world that is so important. And that's emotional equity, to know that you're worthy and you are valued. And that's what I want to create, and create that language beyond these pages.
Absolutely. And that's just so important. And I kind of jokingly told you one of my friends was like, "You're having a guy come on?" And I'm like, "Yes, because he knows what he's talking about." He's not coming to tell us, how we need to change or what we need to be or how we need to walk in the world. That's not what Harold is about. He's
No,
about, helping us to understand how wonderful and beautiful we are, in so many different ways. Is the tagline of Brown Girl Collective is we celebrate women
absolutely.
who are bold, who are brilliant, and who are beautiful. And that's what this book is all about. A celebration of women who fit into all of those categories. So yes, you are the perfect guest to be here and to come and to
Man,
talk
and I'm so
about
honored.
this. So
I'm so honored.
absolutely. Absolutely. So one of the things, well, I'm just going to ask you a quick question and then we can share, we can get into sharing some of the poems. You are wearing one of your shirts today that says florist. And one of the
Yeah.
things I was looking at, you talk about being a florist. So what exactly does that mean to those who aren't familiar with you and that concept?
So like for the past 11 years or so, I I started this artist collective called Flowers for the Living. And it originally started as a YouTube series where I was just doing, I'm always working on something. I'm always creating a new project and trying to stay unique and stick out. So I wanted to do a YouTube series for the first 14 days of February because it's Black History Month and it's my birthday month. So I was just like, man, let me do something special. And it started out as just poems for the first 14 days. Then the next year, my wife was a part of it, and she sings. And we had a accompaniment like a pianist, and then it just grew. When she became pregnant with our second son, we pulled in a lot of our super friends who sing and different musicians, and it grew into this collective. We got like 9 musicians and 3 background singers and a roster of singers and all that great stuff. It's about 20 of us, and we put on these shows, and I'm at the head of it, and it turned into a non-for-profit and all this great stuff. So I think of myself as a florist, not in the necessarily literal term of a profession per se, one who grows flowers, but more so flowers in the human sense, And I think that I'm using my art and my heart to just bloom some beautiful things around this world.
Absolutely. And I love it.
And so in
Yeah,
that
I
sense, I
actually,
think we are all florists.
yes, absolutely. And one of the things I like to paint in my downtime, so I put up one of my paintings that has flowers in it and paying homage to what you do.
You
So
know what? I'm so glad you said, because I was looking at that paint like that is really beautiful. I wonder who gifted her with that. But that's you. That's
that's
amazing.
me.
I love that.
Yes. So, but
That's
I
some
put
great
that one
work,
up for
man.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So please, please do us the honor, because we're going to talk through some of the poems, but please share whichever one you want to start with. I gave you a few that I really loved, but you can start wherever you feel most comfortable, Harold.
Absolutely, man. And I really appreciate that list you sent over. It got me excited. I was smiling. Just to know, that you even read, and then to know that you read and enjoyed, that means the most to me, because the notion of this book could be exciting for people. Like, oh, a brother talking good about some sisters. I love that. That's good. But then to actually open the book and say, this is great. Like, I love this. That's a whole nother level of appreciation. And that really,
Absolutely.
warms my heart. So I appreciate that. So I was going to start with Tarana Burke, Tarana's Freedom. The beautiful thing about freedom is the ability to just be, the bliss in the exist. And for every limitation placed on that verb, the tighter the proverbial walls feel. Sometimes those walls have spikes or fire, and they close quicker on some than others. Those walls can leave scars, leaving the victims searching for ways to heal. And some find a way to run through walls so others know freedom. You break down walls and never claim to be a healer or a fixer, but a great listener. There's freedom in being heard. There's liberation in words. There is power in community. Two words to let it be known it's not just you, me too. But it's so much more than the gathering. Freedom is a shift in mentality from victim to victor, from survivor to thriver. The power you've given others is the chance to be released from prison. That's what happens when we listen. The stories that bind us relinquish their power. But not only do you tear down walls, you are a door holder with your arm extended to show your scars exist too. You are strong enough to make the world listen and get uncomfortable while you keep going, even when the moment has passed. But never forget, you deserve love too. So whenever someone says, I love Tarana Burke, the world should say, me too.
All right. And we didn't talk about this yet, but each woman, there's a beautiful illustration. That's the one for Tarana there. I really love that. I think I told you earlier. My mom went and pre-ordered a copy of the book because she's like, "Oh, those poems look so great," and the the paintings and things that go along with it, and it really just brings it home with the beautiful images as well. Now,
Yeah,
I have a
Melissa
question
Colby is
for you.
amazing.
Absolutely, absolutely. How did you kind of decide which women for this particular volume to include? Because there's so
Yeah.
many wonderful women.
I'm so glad you said volume, because that's my hopes and dreams, to create volumes of this work, But for this particular volume, we started obviously with a large list, because I had a lot of Black women on my heart. And really it was helpful to have the editor that I had, because it was a hard decision for me. Like I wanted to keep them all. So we kind of went through some tiers of decision making. So we kind of started off with, like, those super global names. We was like, okay, they kind of get a lot of recognition. Let's, the Beyoncés and Oprahs of the world, we could, and then from there, if we saw like some doubles in people's disciplines, we tried to kind of figure that out and mold that up. And from there, it was really, I had to make sure that I had family on there.
Oh,
I
yes.
wanted to make sure I had Chicago on there, you know, and then I wanted to make sure that the disciplines were spread out and diverse, so I didn't want to have too many, artists, or, it kind of placing the columns from there.
Right, because that is one thing, Tarana Burke, we know her as the founder of Me Too, even though people tried to make it seem like it was theirs. Thank God we know that it's really her who started that
Right,
movement.
exactly.
And right. And I mean, but that kind
Absolutely.
of speaks to what you were saying earlier, how a lot of times the things that Black women are doing can be pushed to the side, or, someone else co-ops it. They're good. They're good for that.
Absolutely.
We created it, but someone else
Absolutely.
co-ops it.
Yeah, without a blink of an eye.
Without a blink of an eye. So I just thought it's really good that you included her. And then, just to be honest, even also with you coming at this from a male perspective, because some people hear Tarana Burke, males, and they don't, they don't like it because
Right.
of their
And
own.
and that was, yeah, and I was very, adamant about that because I think it's so important what she's doing. And I think it's so important to hear that it's important from a Black male, because, sometimes we can be our worst enemies, you know what I'm saying? And it doesn't make sense to me if we're trying to create a more equal and fair world where women are protected, our sisters are protected, and people are not having to deal with the harm that past generations have, then how can we shut out such an important voice like Tarana? You know what I'm saying? And I think
Mhm.
even more important than that, when you have people that are carrying that much weight on their back and doing the work, it's good to know that you are appreciated. Like, it may seem like a simple thing, but I wanted to end that point the way I did, because she's sending, through her fight and advocacy, she's sending so much love out into the world, but we got to send
Absolutely.
that right back. She
Mhm.
deserves that right back tenfold, and she has to know that, that as much as you got our back, we got yours too, and I think it's a highly important thing, because when I listen to her, because my process of, like, and I call it sitting with each of these roles, is I call it sitting with them when I would research them and listen to their interviews and read their work and all that type of stuff. And one of the most consistent things I heard from her was that she doesn't think of herself as like someone who knows everything or is here to, be a healer or fix everything. She really prides herself on being a listener, a good listener,
Mhm.
and I think sometimes, that's something that we as males have to do, as far as going back to your statement about, some males are here and be like, but are you really listening to what she's saying? Like, when someone has been through pain and trauma and they
Mhm.
are fed up, it's not your job to rah at them. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Because when we yell as a group, when we yell for reparations and people tell us to shut up, we don't like that. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So
Right.
as a male, how could I, as a Black male, how could I see my sister screaming out in pain and say, "Hey, shut up"? That's not that's counterproductive. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? I should be yelling right with her.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. You got that right. You got that right. And just for those who haven't read, she has a book as well. Just going to show y'all real quick. Unbound by Tarana Burke. So if you
Yeah,
haven't had a chance
man, I
to read
got it.
her book, yes,
I got
make
it
sure
right
you
here on the bookshelf.
and our girl Bisa Butler did the artwork on there. So yes,
Yeah.
if you
Oh,
haven't read it,
yeah.
please pick that up, because that way you can learn more about this wonderful woman that Harold has written so lovely, such lovely words about. So So who do we have next?
Let's go to Nicole Hannah Jones. We
All right.
did the video for her.
Right, I did watch that earlier.
Nicole's Democracy.
All right.
Yeah, didn't it come out good?
It did. It did. I enjoyed it. And by the way,
Absolutely.
Harold, all of his social media is streaming at the bottom, so you can go to his YouTube and watch the video we were just talking about. All right, see, after you, sir, go
Nicole's
ahead.
Democracy. Ode to Nicole Hannah Jones. Moses parted the Red Sea to set his people free. Nicole parted her red fro and told America to give her people what they are owed while resurrecting the spirit of I to B. It's all biblical, and denying documented history is blasphemy. Slavery then, segregation now, to reparations when. The way you craft the narrative, present all the points and ask the right questions, amass the storyteller, teaching us all a lesson with an efficient rage that burns like a furnace, with perpetually manicured nails to let you know she's always prepared to scratch below the surface, re-examining our past in hopes to reimagine Najaya's future, young, gifted, and black, a Pulitzer Prize, a MacArthur Grant. You have shown us the power in looking back. You have provided us with the warmth of other suns just by telling the truth. We have options. From the White Lion to the White House, our story can no longer be left out. You have reframed the way we recall. And for that, you are the most American of us all.
All right, and here is the beautiful picture of her with that red hair. I love it.
That
Yes,
red, that fire.
yes, she definitely brings that fire. A lot of people became familiar with
Absolutely.
Nicole Hannah Jones with her 1619 project, in the New York Times a couple of years ago, and now the book as well. And even more so for some when she famously decided to take her talents to Howard after being refused at her alma mater.
Right, yeah.
Or, they're playing games with
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that moment. That was such a beautiful moment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because but it just speaks to what all we've been talking about is that people look to her, they look at her talent, but they didn't want to give her tenure, not wanting to give her just due. Even now, I have that book
Hmm.
here as well. But, even now, people are really fighting against
Absolutely.
the work that she created with this whole doing away with critical race theory and all these sorts of things. So she is quite the powerful sister.
She is. She is. And all of that is just asinine, you know. It doesn't make any sense because I mean, to create a better future, we have to be honest about our past, you know. And I think that the scholars that she rounded up to create this work, I mean, the resumes speak for themselves, you know, and I think everything that people are trying to do to uh, contradict all of this work, it just shows how important the work is, you know?
Absolutely. Because what they say, if nobody's hating on you, what you're doing
You
must
ain't
not be
doing
that
much.
important. Right. Right. 'Cause somebody's gonna be hating on whatever
Absolutely.
it is that you're doing. But yes, I
Hmm.
love,
Absolutely.
the way that you speak, about what she's doing and giving her flowers as well. So
Yeah, man, I think it's so important because I think she's battling every day, you know.
mhm.
If you follow her on social and stuff, like she is having to put up with so much nonsense, you know what I'm saying? And I think again, I think it's just so important to get that, hey, you are appreciated. Know that you have a whole army behind you. You know what I'm saying? Like that work is appreciated, but I think even more importantly, we have to motivate people like that to keep the work up, like, because
Right.
the race ain't over. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need her, and I think, gifts like this can inspire people to keep going, hopefully. You just hope that, stuff like this can be touching enough to make people feel like, man, you know what? Let me go on another day.
Absolutely. And as you were saying that, I was just thinking, if we look back during like the time of civil rights, we know that there were a lot of women who were leading charges even then, but it might have been, the
Yeah.
man who
Mm-hmm.
got put, like Martin Luther King or other folks got put in front. But in this particular case, she's a sister who is able to stand up and stand up and, and speak and say what needs to be said. And just like with those great male leaders, she's, as you said, she faces some of the same thing. I'm pretty sure she's getting death threats and all other sorts of things trying to silence her voice. So it is important that
Oh,
we support.
it's 10 times worse, because
Mhm.
I think with the men, I think that normally, it's just the physical threat, just the death threats, like, oh, you gonna die. But of course, just like anybody, when it comes to women, one of the first thing people want to do is get to threatening sexually and all this, and it makes you paranoid. You know what I'm saying? Like, you
Mhm.
always got to look over your shoulder and wonder, like, who's doing what is going on. You almost can't even enjoy yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, all you trying to do is make a better and just world, and then you got to deal with the nonsense. And when it comes to women, I think it has multiple layers that even the men didn't have to deal with.
Mhm. That is true. That is very true. Just to think about that as well, because yeah, it's something else, and
Yeah,
that
I
kind
could only
of
imagine.
yeah. And that makes me think of the next person that I gave you who's actually celebrating a birthday today. Well, actually, not the next one, but we can go to her since I brought it up already.
Yeah, yeah. Right,
Thinking
yeah.
of our next person who celebrating her 25th birthday today and some of the things that she had to endure, even to be able to get to the space that she has come to in her career.
Yeah. Ridiculous.
And
Just
that's
try just
Simone
trying just
Biles.
trying to do some flips, man.
Yeah, she just right. But I mean, all the things that she endured, dealing with sexual abuse and
Mm-hmm.
things like that. So it's definitely something that we
Mm-hmm.
all have to consider. But I want you to share your
Yeah.
poem for Simone. Hopefully, somebody out there knows her and sends this to her so she can hear her special poem on her 25th birthday.
Absolutely. Simone's Wings. Ode to Simone Biles. You are so rebellious that you decided to defy gravity, ignore all the rules, and fly. I've never seen a human being transform like you. You saw how uneven the bar was and decided to just raise it. You kept going until you found balance. You vaulted into our hearts and onto podiums with laser beam focus. Maybe it's because Miss Nellie showed you how to see your goals before you crushed them. And maybe it was Mr. Ron who taught you how to build wings. In turn, you have taught so many how to dream. You are so rebellious that you defied physics and became gold. You may be one of the best alchemists this world has ever known. So many of us live with the fear of the unknown, but you had the courage to soar, not knowing where you would land. But look at you, both feet firmly planted in history, pushing through pain with all that pressure piled atop your petite frame. What a degree of difficulty. And I know all of life's tumbles can take their toll, but you've shown us that coming up short doesn't have to alter long term goals. You've shown us how to fly, and that is gold.
Absolutely, lots and lots of gold. And there is her picture. One thing about Simone, though, like Earlier today, I shared one of her quotes on the Brown Girl Collective social media pages. It's that she, she's this wonderful athlete, and she went through a lot to get to where she is. Obviously, as a young woman, her upbringing, just different things that happened in her family situation, dealing with the sexual abuse and all of that, but to go on and to become like the GOAT, pretty much.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
also to the space where she's like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's just powerful.
And you know what? I was just about to say that. I think that to me was probably one of the more powerful moments, right up there with winning all the golds and whatnot. Like her and no, Naomi Osaka, for those women to have their moments as young champions, to say, you know what, I have to pause.
Right.
I'm not okay, and I have to pause. I think that was so powerful because so many of us in situations where we are not as empowered feel so scared to say that. We feel like we have to just keep going, keep going, keep going until we hospitalize ourselves sometimes, and I think for them to be at such a high place and to have said in front of so many people, I'm not okay right now, and I'm going to take a break. I think it was empowering, and it was just a beautiful thing to watch. So many people, we would love to have seen her compete, but I love to see her have her own advocacy and her own autonomy in that moment to say, no, not right now.
Absolutely, because her health is most important. Her mental health, her physical health, her being. She is a human being, not just a human doing. And I think that
exactly.
With all of us, Black women, Black men, why we came here to America. I'm talking about America specifically. We came here to be humans doing, not humans being. So anytime someone can take our skill set and capitalize off of it, they're going to do it. And it's like, even though, she might be getting all these deals and making a lot of money and all that stuff, it's still not worth her well-being. And it's good that she and Naomi, are able to do that, to stop and be like, you know what? No.
No, I totally agree, and I love the human doing. I think that's a great way of putting it. Like, we have to be human beings, we have to be able to have that autonomy to say, no, not right now.
Absolutely. And even though it's happened a lot, I'm just going to bring this up. Since we do have a male perspective, of course, we've seen these young ladies doing that. I haven't necessarily seen male athletes or artists doing the same thing.
Well, you know what? And that was an interesting conversation that came up, because when Ben Simmons of the Philadelphia 76ers took his pause, and said, hey man, it's mental health. Things ain't really sitting right, and it was treated very differently, so it's, and that conversation came up, like literally the Simone and him, conversation of, this is why men don't speak up. This is why men don't say, things, or men don't, take these breaks, because look at how he's being treated in comparison, to a Simone. And of course, he has came after a poor performance in the playoffs and being, heckled and things like that. But it is what it is. Like, if the man say, my mental health is not where it needs to be, then you got to believe him. You know what I'm saying? And I think us as fans get to a place of entitlement that we forget that these people are human beings. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And honestly, move on, man. Go watch another game.
Right.
Go talk to your friend. Go outside. Go do something else. Leave this grown man alone. Let him deal with his stuff.
Right. These people don't belong to you. Yeah,
They don't
that's
belong, man. That is the, and that's the thing. Like, we because we'd be quick. If it was somebody white, talking to us crazy like that, we'd be quick to call it what it is. But then when it's us acting like that with us, then it's all of a sudden we can't understand how crazy that look.
hmm Yeah, we definitely have to learn to be more supportive of one another. That's for sure. In the things that we're going through, because
Absolutely.
once upon a time, we didn't necessarily have the language for what was going on with us. Just like, you were saying earlier, people may not have
Absolutely.
had the language to know how to properly celebrate Black women for the things that they're doing, because that's one of the other things that I really
Hmm.
enjoy about the book is that you are honoring their work, their person, their humanity. That's what you're doing, wherein sometimes, and I mean, it was something that came out a couple of weeks ago where folks are talking about, oh, women is always something, well, a woman with a degree, this, or a woman who's too smart, that, but,
Right.
but I mean, these are things that you're celebrating all throughout the book, because as I mentioned, they're 40. We can't get to all of them,
Absolutely.
but I mean, they're scientists, politicians, there's some of everything in here, in terms of women and being successful, and it's celebrated. It's not something to look down upon.
No, not at all. I know I mean, and everybody different, but I don't really understand those conversations. Like I love an accomplished woman. I love a smart woman. You know what I'm saying? Like I just think it's because I just feel like you can learn from everybody. You know what I'm saying? And I just love people who are able to teach me something, just by being around them, just by being in conversation with them, just by watching them. And I think that to believe that women are not as compatible as mates because they, have high earning jobs, or because they're more intelligent or more degreed up, or whatever the case may be. I don't understand the conversation, but that conversation ain't for me. Obviously, you know what I'm saying. So, more power to them brothers. I hope they find some. I hope they find peace. Whatever they looking for, but give me an accomplished, intelligent woman all day, man, because I think that keeps life interesting. My wife is brilliant, man, and conversation is gonna last way past cosmetics.
Right, right. Absolutely. That is so true. So thank you for that. That just means a lot hearing that come from you. Now, one of our next ones, I skipped over her, so we can go back. Is well, I'll let you tell it. Someone who that we admire just for her personality and the way that she expresses herself in the world. Y'all will find out who it is here in a second.
Absolutely. Tracy's Joy. Ode to Tracy Ellis Ross. Her laugh sounds like reparations, like payback for plight and plantations. She laughs for times we were unfamiliar with jubilation. It almost sounds like science fiction. Unimagined realities and alternate universes exist in her bliss. When someone's delight makes you smile, that's transformative. Her laugh is a revolution. We are all watching a master of one who reminds us self-love looks like strength. Solitude looks like a gift. Everyone's imaginary BFF. Her laugh sounds like no regrets, like a teachable moment wrapped in a non-judgmental tone. Her laugh looks you in the eyes and makes you feel at home. And her hair is a dissertation, heavily citing research of trees. Our roots tell a story, and we control the narrative. Her passion and perseverance dictate that the right pattern could break the mold. Her laugh sounds like independent study, like it chose its own course. And of course, she laughs with her mouth open. She needs you to see what freedom looks like. Her laugh is an abolitionist. It has its own identity and language and monologue and introduction. It says, I wasn't always this way, but I'm happy for the journey. like it's so excited to no longer be hiding. Her laugh is a liberation for all of us.
Thank you, thank you. And I love Tracy Ellis Ross. Here is her photo. And I actually do use her products. So I like how you put pattern in there, which is the
Man,
name of her.
I heard that they are great. Yeah,
Yes, yes, this is compliments
I
of
heard they're
pattern
great.
here. So
Hey man, your curls popping, so I believe it.
yes, thank you. Yes, I said she is my muse when it comes to hair. But that's one thing though. Of course, we all have different hair textures. So I mean that's a thing. I know believe she's probably the muse for a
Right.
lot, but all of us is not gonna look like hers, but we work with what we've got. But I love the way that you talk to her and speak to her joy, because that is something that we not just because she's a comedic actress, but even when you see her operating just as a human being, in social spaces or whatever, she always seems to carry this joy with her.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because I was working on one of my other books, the children book, and I was talking to my editor, and she was talking to me about, because I had used the word happy, where she was like, you know what, I think joy would be stronger here because happy is fleeting and joy is more permanent. And I was like, you know what, you're absolutely right. And it
Mhm.
just made me think about, how powerful joy is. And Tracy has the ability to make joy look cool, because sometimes joyful people, you can wonder, like, where does that even come from? What is the origins of it? But she wears it with such pride and such confidence that it feels like joy is something we should all be aspiring to. And I think that that's
Mhm.
a very powerful virtue to have. um I've just, and I've been a fan for a long time. Like, she used to be on this show called Lyricist Lounge on MTV, and I thought she was so great on there. It was like this freestyle rap show, and they would do it was like freestyle rap, sketch comedy. It was so many things in one. And that was my introduction to her. And I was just like, man, she just has such a radiant personality and is so magnetic. And I've been watching her since then, and anything she was on, I was like, oh man, this is great. And it was so interesting because she was also one of the video odes that I put up early in the project, because the project started in 2019. And one day, um, D Wade had put up his video ode that I did of him.
Okay.
And I saw that. I know it was buffering for a second. I'm back with you.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So one day, D Wade had put up his old, and I saw that she shared his in her story, and I was like, oh man, wow. And I just on a whim, I was like, man, Miss Ross, look, I did one for you too. I hope you enjoyed it. And she ended up putting it up. And I just, man, I was cooking breakfast at the time. I had to go around the corner and stop, and I just started crying
Oh.
because it was just such an overwhelming day, emotionally, like, because you're reaching people with this gift and touching them in the way that you set out to do. I operate with so much intention. So to have that intention felt and received in the way that it was, happening, it was overwhelming for me. So yeah, I'll never forget that moment.
Right, I can only imagine her and Rhapsody, who actually wrote the introduction to your book. Or for it. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
she wrote the actual for it. And she, for those who don't know who Rhapsody is, she is a hip hop artist who's probably the best out there, or one definitely top 5, but because of the way that
Man.
she expresses, she doesn't get the type of feedback that others do because she's more, I guess, a righteous rapper. She's not, she's not exposing her body
Right.
parts. She's not, rapping about, sex and things like that. So she doesn't get the play. But in terms of being a lyricist, she's one of the best out there.
She one of the best out there, period.
Mm-hmm. Male or female. so yes, it's just that's
Yeah,
great that you
it
did
don't
one for
matter.
her.
Yeah.
Right. You did one for her as well, and then she actually wrote in your book. That's awesome.
Yeah, man. I can't say enough good things about Rhapsody, man. Like she is such a good person. And I just to this day, I'm just still so indebted to her for writing that forward. It means so much to me. Every time I look at the book and I see those words embossed on there forward by Rhapsody, my heart just, enlarges.
Mm-hmm. And actually, this picture is her.
That
This is
picture
the
is her.
one.
Yeah, it is. Yep.
Yep. So, absolutely, that's beautiful. Now we're getting close to time, but there's one more I have to have you share because this is the first lady. The last poem is the first lady.
Absolutely.
You'll know what we're talking about here in
Absolutely.
a second. All right.
Absolutely. Lisa's prayers. Ode to Lisa Green. I'm not a religious man, but I have unshakable faith in you. I learned how to love by watching you. I knew your heart before I knew you, and I still see it clear. Every day after school, you'd ask me to tell you about my day, just so I knew. I always had a listening ear. You looked death in the face and said, not yet, just so I never knew fear. You could have been anything you wanted, and you still chose to be my mother. What an honor. Such a great tour guide through an ever evolving amusement park full of roller coasters and wild rides. You showed me Psalm 23 in living color. You have comforted me with your words and presence. You have prepared tables before me with Sunday's excellence, and you anointed my head with oil, pomade, grease, or whatever my preference. You taught me how to believe with diligence, how to keep showing up. You are the cause of consistency. I am the effect of your confidence. Love is not selfish because of you. I know the difference.
All right. There she is. We had to include your mother in there. That's beautiful.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
beautiful. Even though the other first lady
Absolutely.
is in there as well, your wife. So I don't mean no harm, wife.
Absolutely.
Mama's the one that got it here. It was the mama, wife. So
Absolutely. She was the first. Absolutely.
she was the first. Because I often will say that to my mom. She's my
Yeah,
first lady.
absolutely.
And your sister's in here as well. You include your
Yeah,
sister
and
as well.
cousin.
Oh, okay. Which one was your cousin? So I know which one to go back and look at.
M- My cousin is Tasha Bell.
Tasha
I call
Bell.
her my
Okay.
sister cousin.
Okay. Gotcha.
Hmm.
Gotcha. So yeah, I mean, I think that's beautiful because being able to talk about the women out there in the world, and, doing whatever it is that they're doing, that's great. But to bring that back home and to be able to give honor,
Yeah.
where it's due, to the people who are there with you from your mom who gave you life to your wife and, relatives who play an integral part in your life. I think that's just beautiful that you included them for all of us to read and know about it.
Yeah, I mean, it was such an honor when I asked the publishing house, like, hey, can I, include my family? And they just gave me the green light. And I was like, man, thank you, because I mean, these people have been so supportive. Like my mom, when I would come in, when I first started writing, she would come in on her lunch break and wouldn't even eat. She'd sit at the edge of her bed and just listen to whatever poems I had wrote that
Mm,
day. And
mm,
it's so crazy because, I was watching the Kanye doc, and the most endearing parts of it for me were the ones he shared with his mom. And I just, in those moments, I knew why he had become he had become because of
mhm,
that confidence that she instilled in him. And I related, that's my mama. You know what I'm saying? Like that's my, like anything I did, anything I do to this day, she's just right there rooting, and my dad too. Like, don't get that too, but we're talking about her right now, but like,
right.
to have that type of confidence behind me and instilled in me, man, you can literally move mountains with that, So, um, she had to be in there, and I was just really thankful that I had the opportunity to do that.
Absolutely, and it's just something to pay, honor. As I said, where it's due. Because I don't have it here, but we're talking about my painting. The very first like real painting that I did was a family portrait of my mom, my grandmother, and myself. So I know about that. Just
Oh,
paying
that's
honor.
beautiful.
That's where I came from, and so that was what was in my heart and spirit to do. But I don't have it because mom has it. It was a gift specifically to her
I was
that
just
she
about to
picked
say that
up.
sounds like something that's at your mama house.
It is. It's at my mama's house. It's huge, 36 by
Absolutely.
36.
Yeah, I already
So yeah,
know.
it's at mama's house because that was for her, and
Hmm.
just to pay honor to where we come from. So that's just wonderful. So thank you so much for sharing everything, about Black Roses. Of course, we only touched on a teeny bit of what's actually included in the book. As I mentioned, there are 40 women who are featured, and of course, it comes out tomorrow. However, you have something else coming up in May. Another book.
Yeah, yeah, I do. Black Oak will be releasing May 31st, writing time for Father's Day and summer readings and all that good stuff. So, you got all this Black Floors coming your way this year that you can just dive into and keep circulating and giving as gifts and getting for yourself and reading and all that good stuff, man. I really feel like these books can have a worldwide impact, and I'm just really excited to have the opportunity to present them in this way.
Absolutely. And now in Black Oak, of course, that's in honor of the men. Is it 40 as well, or?
Yeah, same format, 40 and 40 illustrations.
Okay, okay. So who are some of the men that we can look to see in that one?
The cover that's Jason Reynolds. We got Pharrell in there. We have Colin Kaepernick is in there. We got John Legend in there. We have so many guys. My
Okay.
mind is on Black Roses right now. I'm
Oh,
sorry,
that's okay. That's
but
okay.
no, we
I
got
just
we
brought
have
it up
it's
because so
no, it's
people
a
that know,
plethora. We
you
got
go
we
ahead and
got
give
we
this
got
one.
Ryan Coogler in there.
Okay. Yeah. Oh wow. Well, I'm in Atlanta, so there's been a lot of talk about
Yeah,
Ryan Coogler lately.
eh,
But we,
right. That's why. Yeah, and that's why I just brought him up. Uh huh.
right, right, right. For those of you, just real briefly, Ryan Coogler, who was the director of Black Panther and some other films, he's in Atlanta here where I am. Got arrested for trying to get his own money out of the bank. So, so for those of you who haven't seen
Exactly.
that story, go and
Exactly.
look it up. Go and look that up. So, yes, well, I'm looking forward to that one as well. I'll go ahead and get my pre-order in so that I can read that as
Absolutely.
well. Because one thing I will say, even
And then
though
we got
Brown
a
Girl,
book tour starting,
okay,
and I'll be in Atlanta. I'll be in Atlanta May 1st.
Okay, then I need.
Over at 44th and 3rd.
Okay, well, I'll be in touch so I can try to come out there and support you there and maybe get you to sign something for me. That
Please,
would be
yeah, I would love that.
yeah, that would be
I would love it.
wonderful. Absolutely. But I really do, once again, thank you so much for being here. I mean, it's appropriate because it's Women's History Month, so it's a good time to, just tap into, the wonderful, beautiful flowers that you have given these women. And, I know even though there are specific people who are mentioned here, it can apply to any of us or all of us because there is wonder and beauty in all of us. So I appreciate you for sharing your
Absolutely.
gift with us and being here to talk about it and give us a little background. And everybody, the name has been up there almost the entire time, so you know exactly what it is. And it comes out tomorrow. So please go and support this wonderful brother Harold Green III. Support him, get black roses, and order black oak as well, because as he mentioned, Father's Day and graduations, all that stuff are coming up, and these will make great gifts, the ways of encouraging us all, men and women alike. So thank you so much, Harold. I'm going to let you go. So I'm going to make a couple of quick announcements just so people know what's coming up next. But I thank you. And I will definitely be in touch and look to see you in the A in May. Hey, that rhymes. So
You the
thanks so much.
poet, Marcy. You the poet.
I'm the poet. All right, Bill. Well, I'll talk to you soon, brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. All right. Have a good one. Bye-bye. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here to hear just a little piece of what Black Roses is all about. It really is a beautiful book. And, of course, we could not go through all of them, but there are lots of wonderful. Stacey Abrams is in here. Unique Jones Gibson is in here. That's Rhapsody, who's on the cover. There's just a lot of beautiful poems. They're all short. Ava DuVernay right here. So please pick up a copy. It's a way of supporting this brother and also just paying homage to all these wonderful, beautiful Black women. So just to let you know, in terms of what's up next, I will be here next week with Lady Hubbard. With her book of short stories, The Last Suspicious Holdout. So that is going to be on next week, next Monday at 8:00 p.m. We'll have her on to talk about this book of stories that comes out. Actually, it's already out, but yeah, we'll be here to talk about that. And then in 2 weeks, we will have Sheila Williams on to talk about her new book, which isn't out just yet, Things Past Telling. So she'll be here on the 28th. So I thank you again so much for joining, for giving us your time. If you're watching live or if you happen to catch it on a replay, you are so much appreciated. Thank you for supporting the BGC Book Club and all these wonderful authors. And I look forward to seeing you again real soon. Next week for sure. And if not, Thursday when we do Live Well Sister. So you have a good night and we'll talk again real soon. Bye-bye.